Hey everybody, my name is Frank DiCola and I am the founder and lead developer of Charity Quest. Charity Quest is a free volunteer management platform and it's also a network. So in this video we're just going to take a deep dive into some of the behind the scenes features that most volunteers never actually see, but that are exclusive for you, the providers, the charities, the churches, the ministries that are part of our network. And of course, everything I'm about to show you here is 100% free. This is a resource for you that's being donated to your organization, so I really hope you make the most of it. And right now I'm just kind of looking at my personal profile. This is my username, and this is available for everybody to see. But obviously there's nothing really sensitive that's available for anybody to see here. It's just sort of a way for volunteers to brag about what they've done. And of course, for today's demo, we're going to be using my personal account. I am one of the volunteer coordinators at the Hoboken Community Center Pantry, so we'll be using their account as a demonstration. This is recorded in late September 2025, so there might be updates to the system, and after a while we'll probably do another one of these. All right, I'm going to log out just so we can start from scratch here. So when you go to the home page, you will see Charity Quest. Actually, let's go to the homepage here. So Charity Quest, and if you don't have an account just yet, you are going to want to sign up. And it's going to say welcome to Charity Quest. So down here, this will start the process for us to onboard your organization. You can join as a charity, a church, a religious ministry, your diocese could join, schools and businesses can join, and if you click on one of those, we will set up an account for you. But you can join on your own as a volunteer or a staff member by clicking one of these buttons over here. And actually it's going to take you to the same page. Basically, this is your personal account. So you join as a volunteer, and then we will grant you administrative access or management access to the charity that you're in charge of, and you can actually run multiple ministries from one Charity Quest account. If you leave that organization, the organization can remove your access, but you still keep your volunteer profile. And this also just shows you some of the information that we collect from every volunteer that joins our network. So if you adopt our volunteer management platform, everybody that's a new volunteer would go through this process, putting in their first name, last name, cell phone number, date of birth, which is a good way for us to enforce age policies that you have on your account, the email address, of course, a username, which is really just shown to other volunteers so that we don't show their name and contact info to everyone else. They have a password. You might want to tell older volunteers to go ahead and write this password down. It's fine to write down passwords as long as you know where you're keeping them. And that's just a way that they can log back in. The system will remember you after your first login. So once some of your older volunteers log in, the system will remember them, and they should be good for a while. Emergency contact info. So we require every volunteer to at least have something on file, the name of the person who is their emergency contact, and the emergency contact number as well. Okay. So once you've created your account, you can log in. I'm going to log in, of course, as myself. And because I'm the administrator of one or more organizations on the platform, we have some secret windows that show up that are only available to us. So you can see that I manage a bunch of organizations. My account just is an admin of all of these. So you can see these here and you can switch between them. A great place to start is the little home button. So the home page is going to take you to basically the front page of your volunteer portal. This is always going to show a few things right from the bat: the name of the organization, the mission statement of the organization. Everybody can view the calendar, and we're going to go there next. There's some links to download the Charity Quest app because some people might want to do that. And everything that floats to the top is roles and donation links. This is something that's available 365 days a year. So if you want to link to your Amazon wish list, or if you want to link to Donor Perfect or some kind of outside financial donation platform, go ahead and do that. And then we move directly into the active volunteer schedule of the organization. This is great because before volunteers even engage with your organization, they can get a look at your schedule and see, does this fit within my schedule? Maybe I shouldn't even bug the volunteer coordinator if I don't actually think I can commit to those hours. And it's a good problem to have, but a lot of these quests are full. So every volunteer event on the platform is called a quest. That is one particular discrete opportunity where you can help out a charity. And it looks like this time slot is full. That's full. There's some availability on Sunday where we can volunteer downtown. But maybe I'm not available that day. Okay, cool. So let's say that I was available Thursday at 2:30, October 2nd. I want to help out. Clearly there's a need because there's only 2 people signed up right now, so I'm not sure what happened there. There's room for 8 more people. I could go in, And if I wanted to volunteer, I could go ahead and volunteer for the event. But of course, here we're trying to look at some of the management features. So what's nice is that you're actually still looking at the same quest that your volunteers see, but you have this extra gray bar here that has some admin controls. You can go ahead and edit any of the details for this event. So as it turns out, I'm actually supervising this one, so I will definitely be there. This is the description that's available to the public. You can set the visibility of these events. So published will show up on the world map and on the Charity Quest website. Draft will not. Unlisted also will not. So you can have secret quests if you want. Maybe you want to send something to a group or a collection of volunteers that are better equipped to handle something that's a more sensitive nature. You can always keep things private on the platform. But of course, we do recommend most of it be published so that you can recruit volunteers all the time. How many volunteers do you need? You can set a hard maximum, and Charity Quest will not allow anything beyond this point. In the advanced section, you could change the name of the quest. Currently, that will sort of affect the email notifications for certain organizations that are larger, so be wary of that. You can change the age policy, again, to anything that's already on your account. Maybe this is an event that involves alcohol, and I want to set that just to 21 plus. I can do that right here, but I'm going to leave it at heavy lifting, which is, we'll say, older teenagers. Prerequisite hours. How many hours does this volunteer need to have completed with you before they are allowed to sign up for this event? That's entirely up to you, and you can set that. And required orientations. We don't have any specific required orientations on this charity, but I might show you an example of one after this. Okay. Now, we're not showing sensitive contact info for these volunteers right now, but on your account, you would be able to see the name of this volunteer, the email address of the volunteer, and the phone number of the volunteer right there. Of course, other volunteers don't have access to that. That's an administrative feature. That's the theme of this video, is all of the administrative features that are available to you. And of course, some volunteers might push back and say, oh, come on, I've been volunteering since before you were born, kid. Like, I don't want to do this thing. We get it. Sometimes you need to add a volunteer manually. They might tell you while they're volunteering, hey, yeah, put me down for Thursday. I'll definitely be there. You don't want to do that too much just because you don't want to drive yourself nuts, but you do have control to be able to add anybody you want to a particular quest. So I could jump in there and I could say, Frank is definitely coming. Let's go ahead and add him. And it recognizes that volunteer, and I can hit the add button. Now, that is not going to work if it's a brand new volunteer. Totally brand new volunteers need to at least complete one event with your organization before you can add them manually like that, right? What does it mean to complete an event with your organization? It means they were present. So this is very important. When you have on-site volunteering, we require that you take attendance through our platform just to make sure that old records disappear. This also makes sure that volunteers get credit for the hours that they serve with your organization. So be sure to mark someone present or absent if they're not there. And if you already know they're not coming, if maybe they call you and say, oh, terrible situation, my kid got sick, I can't make it that day, go ahead into more and you can boot them if you need to, and you can provide a reason. Emily's kid is sick, sad face, right? And you can kick her out of that event. She's not punished for that, and she won't be marked absent. So go ahead and make sure that you mark people present or absent. That will not save until I hit confirm and e-verify volunteer attendance at the bottom. There's a mobile interface that does much the same thing that I'll show you in a little bit. And I'm not going to save that, of course, but make sure that you hit the save button to be able to save those records. Okay. While you're looking at a particular event, there are some broadcast tools you can use. So if you need to call attention to a particular event, let's say you don't have enough volunteers. There's only 2 volunteers signed up for this one. I might get kind of worried that towards the end of September, as October comes around, we still only have 2 volunteers signed up. Now we're going to be in panic mode because this is a very physically intense shift. I don't think 2 or 3 people can handle this. We're going to probably need 6 or 7. So I might use the broadcast tools. And what the broadcast tools allow you to do, you can essentially select a neighborhood where you would like to send a broadcast. And you're just going to pick, let's say the area around Hoboken. And we have a sense of how many volunteers live in each neighborhood. That's a self-declaration that volunteers can make. They say, yeah, put me down for Hoboken. It's not necessarily their address. They can pick 2 locations. So they might say, well, I work in Manhattan, I live in Hoboken, so I'm going to pick Manhattan and Hoboken. Anyway, we're going to send a broadcast to these volunteers. And to make sure we keep this free for ourselves, we are only going to send it to people who volunteered with us. It would cost money if we wanted to send a broadcast to people who've never volunteered with our organization. That's sort of using it as a marketing tool. But in this case, I'm just going to send to volunteers who've completed a quest from us in the past 6 months. And maybe I say that Spanish language skills are important here. Perhaps we have to talk to some clients that are coming to pick up food. So maybe I would say, let's filter for people that speak Spanish. And then it's just going to calculate this for us. And right now, Charity Quest is just checking to see how many of your volunteers fit within that criteria. And it looks like we would send an alert to 26 volunteers. So I'm not going to do that right now. I don't actually want to broadcast this to them at the moment. I might do that next week, though, if we're running low on volunteers. And this is great because that'll send an email directly to their inbox. And by the way, in that email, there will be a link that sends them right here. So instead of just suggesting that maybe they hopefully volunteer and then call us, text us, or email us, we're sending them directly to the sign up page, and that system will automatically log them in. So it says, okay, great, you know what, I'm going to volunteer for that. Click the thing in the email, great, go here, volunteer for this event, boom. And then as soon as they do that, you get an email notifying you, hey, Frank signed up. That's great, that's wonderful. Okay, cool. So lots of wonderful things you can do per quest. Let's go back to the list of quests here. And suppose me or the volunteers wanted to see a calendar of all of our upcoming events. The chronological list is fine, I guess, but it could get a little dizzying to look at all the different options we have here, especially since, it just shows each day at a time, and I could get a little bit lost in the scroll here. We have enough scrolling in our society. So let's go to View Calendar. You could also go to Calendar up here. And this is a very active calendar. This calendar is where you can post more events. So not only can you look at all of your past events on Charity Quest, you can look at upcoming events. The calendar will show you and only you secret events. So it looks like we kept this off the public calendar, but there's a company coming, VML. We reserved it for them, so they're going to be coming on that date. And the Stevens Lacrosse team is going to be volunteering with us. Again, that's not on the public calendar. We reserved it for them. It's set as a draft, but it's not visible to everybody yet. For the other events, you can see that they're public. You know they're public because they're nice and colorful, and it doesn't say draft or unlisted next to them. And for the most part, we're looking pretty good on this volunteer schedule. Anything that's green is filled entirely. Anything that's orange is on its way to being filled. And I don't see anything red. If red would indicate no one has signed up yet, which there might be some if we go to October. So what I did there is I just went to a little arrow to go to October. And you can also use the date picker here to pick a different month. And it's pretty good. So, the schedule looks okay. Honestly, I think a lot of volunteers have already signed up for October, which is great because that month hasn't even started yet. I like what I'm seeing here. A little worried about Halloween. This is a fundraiser we have. And right now, 0 volunteers have signed up for that so far. But it's not at our pantry, it's downtown, and we also just posted it. So we might broadcast that. We'll definitely put it in social media. It'll be part of our newsletter, and we'll reach out to the volunteers that were there last year just to see if they are interested. Over here on the left, you can see the different stamps that you have on your account. So stamps just make it easy to post something. If it's already a description you've written, like for example, our personal care distribution, our hygiene day, or the produce delivery that always comes on every other Thursday, we could take that saved description right up there, and we could grab, say, maybe the 15th of October. We could go ahead and click that, and we could say that the supervisor is going to be Frank, and the truck is going to be there at 9:30. And we want volunteers to stay maybe about 2 hours, and that's going to be at our pantry, of course. And I could add that quest. And so the moment I add that, it would add it to the calendar, and it would be there. It would be a draft initially, and then we could go into that draft, and we could say, okay, you know what, this is ready for prime time. Let's go ahead and set that to published. So the same control you have over individual events, when you're looking at them, you also have from this calendar. And if you're wondering about what that might look like to volunteers, you can always jump into a particular event, like what's going on with Halloween? How come no one signed up for that yet? Let's check it out. View the quest. And we can take a look at the description. Maybe the requirements of the issue. Maybe the reason no one signed up is because people have to volunteer at least 4 hours with us, so you have to be a slightly more experienced volunteer, although honestly, that's like 1 or 2 shifts. It's not that bad. But that could be the reason. Maybe we go ahead and change that. So back to the calendar for a moment. All right, wrapping up on the calendar, because I want to go to some of the other screens here. You can always cancel an event. I'm not going to do that right now. But for example, there's 5 people signed up for this shelf delivery quest. And suppose that, unfortunately, the delivery is not coming. We were expecting delivery, but it's not going to be able to be there. We have to postpone it. What a mess, right? Well, unfortunately, you will have to cancel that event. Make sure you let the volunteers know when you hit this cancel quest button, It's going to do a few things. For all the volunteers that are still signed up, it will send them a cancellation email saying no need to show up to the pantry. Sorry, this is canceled. It'll also take it off the Charity Quest map. So the quest will no longer be showing up as an upcoming event, which is great because you want to cancel it and you want to kick all the other volunteers out, but you don't want more volunteers to sign up for something that's canceled, right? So just go ahead and use this calendar as your dashboard for posting new stuff, checking to see how your volunteer program is doing, and canceling any event that's not happening. Okay, 2 more screens that are really important. Of course, we're collecting a lot of data here, right? You have all these volunteers who are serving your organization. They're volunteering with you, you're checking them in, which means they're earning hours, and you'd like to be able to check on that, right? So you can go to your leaderboard by clicking volunteers at the top, and you can jump into the record of any of these volunteers who have served with you, and you'll be able to see which ones have volunteered 14 hours, which ones have volunteered hundreds of hours, right? It's really quite incredible. And so we could go to a particular volunteer and his record. Again, we're going to hide personal contact info, but you would see name, phone number, email address here. And you can see everything that this particular volunteer is signed up for. And you can see everything this volunteer has done with your organization, as well as the different people inside your charity that actually check this volunteer in. How many hours this volunteer has earned with you. And you can always go back to their whole record and just look back to the beginning of time or whenever they started serving with you. And the rep is just an indicator of whether they are well-liked by your organization or disliked by your organization. Of course, showing up to events and volunteering and working really hard is the kind of thing that will increase your reputation. And if you have to bail out of something, if you drop out at the last minute, or if you are a no-show, that's going to decrease your reputation. In the future, we might explore doing some automatic suspensions or punishments for volunteers that are causing a problem. And so that's what we can do with an individual volunteer's record. You'll notice there are some other tabs here that have not been activated: donations, training history, roles and teams, and attributes. These are future features we're planning for Charity Quest. So go ahead and subscribe to our email newsletter, and we'll let you know when those are ready. Okay, so that's a pretty awesome page. There's an orientation section as well, not as appropriate for this particular organization, but I can switch over to an organization in the Bronx that is using Charity Quest. So St. Philip Neri Mommy Storeroom is a wonderful Catholic organization. Now, to comply with the Catholic Archdiocese sex abuse and safe environment regulations, all volunteers that enter through to this program need to make sure that they've gone through a particular orientation. And so the sisters are able to track that using Charity Quest. You can go to the orientations page, and you could just see any volunteer who has applied for a training and whether or not they've actually finished that training. So they could be marked provisional, which means maybe things are still in progress; interested, which means that you need to start processing their record; and complete, which means that they're good and they can actually sign up for events. So we can go into any of these volunteers if we needed to, and we could say, Colleen, we're gonna set, her training was withdrawn or failed, or maybe it expired, right? You can set all these things right here. The status of her training, whether it expires, and Charity Quest is going to notify volunteers that a training expiration date is coming up so they can renew. And you could even put notes on a particular volunteer if you need to. So that's the volunteers tab up here. Would love your feedback on some more filters to put here. Obviously, we have the leaderboard and orientations, but there could certainly be more if you think of other ways that you'd like to slice and dice the data when it comes to your volunteers. All right, speaking of data, so it's very important to be able to crunch your records and get a sense of how volunteers have served your organization over the past year. And typically what a lot of organizations do is when it's time to write a grant or when it's time to put something in the bulletin, they have to go back through a lot of spreadsheets and paper documents and try to tabulate how much people were there. And then they also have to do some mental math to say, well, okay, we never really check in Greg, but Greg's great and Greg's always here, right? So that must be, is it 30 hours, 40 hours? I don't know, let's make something up, right? Well, you can actually have the answer to that question available to you at the press of a button, as long as you're tracking volunteers through our free platform. When you go to the data tab, you'll be able to switch between year and month, and you can switch to any year that you were active and any month that you were active in that year. And it's going to show you the top total unique volunteers you've had in your organization during that time period, how many hours they served as a combined total, and then we're crunching that number into the estimated dollar value of that volunteer labor. According to the United States, this is an estimate that they've come up with, but they'll say that an hour of volunteer's time is worth maybe $33, right? $33 and change. So when you crunch all of that information, you get a sense of the actual financial value that's coming to your organization purely from your volunteers. Notice these are not financial donations, but just if you crunched the amount of hours they've spent volunteering, what is that worth to your organization? And I would say nearly 35 grand for 2025. That is pretty good. Now again, we're hiding sensitive information here, but you would be able to see all of this information for your volunteers in the year of 2025, as well as downloading the recap as a CSV file, I believe, that could be imported into a donor platform if you wanted to take information from Charity Quest and bring it into something like a Salesforce or a Donor Perfect, because you're tracking donations that way and you want your volunteers to be in that other platform. You can go ahead and download a recap at regular intervals, maybe once a month or every 2 weeks if you want. That's up to you. And we can see each volunteer, how many hours they've served, how many quests they've completed, which would be a volunteer shift, age, email address, phone number, and their name, of course. Beyond that, you can also see how many of them were first-time volunteers, right? Of all the volunteers that came to you this year or this month or whatever, how many of them were new according to Charity Quest, right? Which means that our system has not recognized them yet. So when you first join, probably all of them are going to be considered new. But then, in future months and in future years, you'll really get a better sense of, okay, this is a new person that we didn't have before. And we get into the problem territory down here. Of course, we are tracking negative stats as well. That's important. So when you mark someone absent, that is being tracked right here. Volunteers recorded absent in the year of 2025 right there. And then you also have volunteers who canceled with short notice, right? So what's considered short notice? If someone drops out of an event 24 hours before the start time of that event, we are keeping track of that as a late drop, right? And a late drop is not great. You want to take inventory of the people that are doing that on a regular basis. So what I would say is look for spikes in the data, right? If someone drops out once or twice across the whole year, it's really not an issue. For these volunteers that are up to 4 late drops, that's 4 times that they left you hanging with really not a lot of time to recover. Yes, of course, you have Charity Quest broadcast tools, but is that enough time? I don't know. So you could give these volunteers a call. You could just tell them that it does affect your organization when they drop out like that. Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe they need to change their behavior and just refrain from signing up until they're absolutely sure that they can make it, or possibly that shift just doesn't work for their schedule. So yeah, there's a lot of really great tools that are available to you with our free platform. We would love to help you set up an account, and then you're good to go. And of course, if there's something that another platform does that you would like us to bring into our free platform, I can't promise we'll have it right away, but we'll definitely include it on our backlog. And if it's something that a lot of charities and churches are asking for, we can move it up the stack to make sure that it's something we work on sooner than that. And if you'd like to get some ideas for what some other organizations are doing on the platform, you can always go to the Charities view up here, and you can scroll through and see some of the other organizations that are using Charity Quest. You can jump into their particular page and just see, how do they lay out their schedule. Maybe there's some ideas you can get based on how they are writing volunteer descriptions. We could jump in and find St. Philip Neri Mommy Storeroom right here. And this is what their schedule looks like. Wonderful. And some of the features that we've seen today are available on the mobile app. Not all of them, of course. So for the most part, you are going to want to use the Charity Quest website. If you're an administrator and you are posting quests, canceling things, if you are generating reports for your board, you're definitely going to want to use that Charity Quest website. But the mobile app is also a great way that you can check in volunteers if you are out in the field and you're not next to your computer, right? So the mobile map looks a little different because it is a map of the area, but this gives you a really good sense of all of the other organizations that are currently using Charity Quest. And so if you need to check in volunteers at a particular location, just go to that location on the map and go ahead and open that up. And you'll be able to see essentially the same interface that you would have on the web, but it's on your mobile phone. And of course, if you are not the administrator of an organization, you will only see usernames. So since I don't run Temple Bethel, I only see usernames like Liz and Charna528. I have no idea who those people are, right? So that's just a way to protect volunteers from each other. But of course, as an administrator, you will always see sensitive contact information for the people that signed up for your organization. And the mobile app view is quite similar. You have all the information volunteers need to make a smart decision about when and where they want to volunteer, even things like the age policy. You know, can little kids come to this event? Maybe not. Maybe they could if mom or dad is with them. And we could volunteer. So the mobile app is really great for letting volunteers discover what's around them in their neighborhood. And it's also really good for checking in volunteers when you're not near your computer. And of course, there are some group management tools as well. You can go ahead and jump into your group if you need to edit the role of a particular member of your organization. And from time to time, we also do competitions. So this is another way we're using the data that we're tracking when you take attendance, is that we can give prizes out to volunteers who complete a certain amount of volunteer events in a given time period. So I can't wait to work with you. Go ahead and create an account. We'll put a link in the description of this video. I'll probably put it somewhere on the screen here so you can click that. We'd love to help you set up an account, and we're really looking forward to working with you. Take care and God bless.